This weekend will see the F1 paddock head to Red Bull's home race in Austria. The weekend is set to be a jubilant homecoming for Max Verstappen. Grandstands will be packed with orange, flares will be set off in every session, and those fans will be expecting a dominant display from the reigning world champion. But could Mercedes upset what many will expect to be a victory parade for Max Verstappen? Or will Mercedes find themselves in trouble at the Red Bull ring as they have many times before? We're going to look at what will happen in Austria and whether Mercedes can continue to grow into this championship. The Silverstone race weekend provided the most exciting race of the season for a number of reasons. Zhou Guanyu's crash was as spectacular as it was terrifying, and Sergio Perez's charge from last to second was absolutely sensational. Ferrari made some horrible strategy decisions yet again, which set up a nail-biting 10-lap shootout at the end of the race. But the most exciting takeaway from the weekend was that Mercedes looked to have the pace to challenge the front two again, setting up a three-way battle for the podium, with Lando Norris's McLaren and Fernando Alonso's Alpine not far behind. The race also provided some concrete evidence that the new technical regulations were working. The safety car restart that followed Esteban Ocon's retirement with 10 laps to go was furious, and the following battle from second to sixth went on for the remainder of the race. These were the best 10 laps of the season so far, and honestly, the best 10 laps I can remember in recent F1 history. As Sainz drove off at the front of the pack, TV cameras had 5 cars in their sight for almost the entire final 10 laps. It was quite simply thrilling. Austria could be set to deliver that same level of excitement as it is the second sprint race of the season. For anyone who needs a recap, Friday will see just the 1 hour of practice before teams head straight into a normal qualifying session, but held on Friday evening. The classification from that session will set the grid for Saturday's sprint, a shorter race that offers up points down to 8th place. At the last sprint race in Italy, Red Bull took the highest ever point score of a team on an F1 weekend, finishing the sprint 3rd and 1st, and then finishing on Sunday 1st and 2nd, as well as taking the fastest lap. So can they get a repeat of that at the Red Bull ring, or will we see another battle like we did in Britain? Before we talk about how Mercedes might be in trouble in Austria, let's talk about what the Austrian Grand Prix has to offer. The Red Bull ring may be named for the owners of the World Champions race team, but it may as well be rebranded as the Verstappen ring, given how successful he's been at the Austrian circuit in his Formula 1 career. In 9 total races around the Spielberg circuit in his 7 seasons in Formula 1, Verstappen has won 4 times and taken 6 podiums at the venue, his best record of any of the 22 circuits on the calendar. Last year, Verstappen emboldened his championship challenge significantly by winning both races held at this circuit from pole position, underlining how strong he is around the 10-turn track. With its long straights leading into tight corners, the Red Bull ring naturally presents plenty of opportunities for overtaking, which may lend itself well to action during the sprint race on Saturday. Also, with more championship points available for sprint races this season, and the front of the field starting to get tighter at the British Grand Prix, the modest points that are available on Saturday afternoon may become more valuable as a result. The last 2 qualifying sessions in Canada and Great Britain have been held in wet conditions, presenting plenty of challenges for drivers simply to keep their cars pointing the right way on the road. The Austrian circuit does have a fascinating history of producing unusual and unexpected grids in qualifying, including Giancarlo Fisichella taking pole for Benetton back in 1998, and the 2 Williams of Felipe Massa and Valtteri Bottas locking out the front row in 2014. The weather for the weekend is looking like it will be a mix of wet and dry, which could mean that we get a shuffled grid. This is going to benefit a few drivers in particular. One is Lando Norris. After storming to a memorable first podium during the opening race of the 2020 season in Austria, Norris took his 4th podium finish during the Austrian round here last year. With podium appearances at Red Bull Ring in Formula Renault, FIA Formula 3 and Formula 2, Norris has become well acquainted with the Spielberg rostrum. Lando is also incredibly handy in the wet, and with his McLaren car appearing to get better with every race, he might be an outside favourite for a podium finish this year. But what about Mercedes? They've had a podium finish in the last 3 races, and Silverstone was the first time they actually looked like a threat to Red Bull and Ferrari. While Hamilton eventually had to settle for 3rd behind Ferrari and Red Bull, his impressive race pace might cause some sleepless nights for his team's rivals, and the Red Bull ring is the ideal kind of circuit to test whether Mercedes' Silverstone pace was a flash in the pan, or an indication that they truly are close to catching the 2 teams who've dominated the season so far. If Mercedes can back up their Silverstone performance by getting involved in the fight at the front in Austria, it could be the biggest sign yet that the second half of the 2022 season could be more competitive at the sharp end of the grid than the first part of the year proved to be. The Red Bull team are never one to shy away from a fight though, especially Helmut Marko. He wasted no time after the Silverstone Grand Prix pointing out something that might be an issue for the Silver Arrows around the Red Bull ring. "I think other teams will have more trouble with bouncing on this track," said Marko. "So they'll just have to raise their cars a little higher. We don't have any problems with it ourselves." This is a strong statement from Helmut, and if it proves to be true, Mercedes could be in huge trouble. The high-speed straights into slow-speed corners could create a huge problem for the Silver Arrows if they're bouncing again. When you try to aggressively brake while bouncing, the car is very unstable and the wheels tend to lock up. It is impossible for drivers to predict and will destroy their confidence in the car, which will affect Hamilton more than Russell. The only solution is to brake earlier and more gradually, which will make overtaking a pipe dream at the Red Bull ring. It will also make the Mercedes car incredibly vulnerable to being overtaken. Not a nice combination. Mercedes team boss Toto Wolff was asked about his hopes for the Austrian Grand Prix after the race at Silverstone. "We were back in the game at Silverstone, but that doesn't mean it will be again in Austria," explained Wolff. "We have had in Barcelona moments of where we saw some light at the end of the tunnel, and then the next 3 street circuits proved that we were wrong, so I don't want to talk us up, nor be too optimistic at this stage," he added. "I think Austria was always a little bit difficult. There's a few corners that we don't like. It's a very different track to Silverstone and one that hasn't always suited us in the past." Toto Wolff is right to keep his expectations low for this weekend's race. Including the 2 Styrian Grand Prix raced at the circuit in 2020 and 2021, just 2 of the previous 6 races at the track have been won by a Mercedes driver. Remember as well that during that time, Mercedes were absolutely dominant in the sport. Sky Sports' Anthony Davidson, who also works as a test driver for the Mercedes F1 team, wasn't optimistic for the team's chances in Austria. "I must say, in Silverstone, it's the best that the car's felt this year on the simulator, and the closest it's felt to last year's car. I did have a strong feeling it would be better than in previous races. I thought the track would suit the car, a nice, smooth, fast circuit like Silverstone. I think the next one like it will be Paul Ricard. Austria, I'm not so sure. They've traditionally struggled there in the past against the likes of Red Bull, but they're making inroads to the top teams. When your own team boss and test driver don't give you a chance in a race, it's a pretty bad sign." The big hope for Mercedes in Austria seems to be either Red Bull or Ferrari having more technical problems. Some more Ferrari strategy errors could definitely help as well. The one thing that will be in their favour and that doesn't require another team to make mistakes is the weather. George Russell is an incredible wet weather driver. Remember Belgium last year where he managed to put his Williams on the front row in wet conditions? That might happen again. The wet weather tyres raise the ride height of the car, so even if Mercedes were at risk of porpoising, the tyres will stop that from happening. And while their qualifying wasn't spectacular at Silverstone, their long stint pace was. With a sprint race over the weekend, Mercedes will have 2 chances to leverage that advantage in their favour. While a strong Mercedes performance in Austria might not be likely, there are some factors which could definitely play in their favour. Do you think Mercedes will be able to compete with Red Bull and Ferrari in Austria? Or will they struggle at the circuit once again? Let us know what you think in the comments section down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye bye.